So deadline day is now behind us and we have our Premier League predictions to go ahead and dive into ahead of the weekend's action. Plenty to talk through in today's video. We had all of the midweek fixtures going on in the Premier League. Didn't manage to get a Premier League prediction video out for that one, but we have all of them to reflect on in today's video. And as always, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think is going to happen this weekend? As always, if you're going to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. 200 likes will be massively appreciated. But without any further ado, let's jump into the predictions. Starting out with the Saturday early kickoff, it is the Merseyside derby, Everton going up against Liverpool. Now, it wasn't a bad point for Everton in midweek. A 1-1 draw played out between themselves and Leeds. The biggest thing from Everton's point of view is that Anthony Gordon is still an Everton player coming out of this transfer window. Lovely goal he scored in that game, albeit Everton were lacking a little bit more sharpness and creativity to go on and kill that game off when they took the lead. Going up against Liverpool at this time of the season is interesting, and I don't think this one's as much of a foregone conclusion as it has been potentially in previous years, particularly with this one being at Goodison, Liverpool, and how vulnerable they've actually looked in recent weeks. I know they got that win eventually in midweek against Newcastle, but took them right until the 97th minute to go ahead and do so. I just think that maybe Liverpool go ahead and scrape this one, but I'm not massively confident in saying that. And I may be even talking myself into a draw here, but no, I'll go with my gut. I'm going to say 2-1 Liverpool as my prediction, but I'm not massively confident in backing them at the moment. Next then to Brentford up against Leeds United. Both these sides playing out 1-1 draws across their midweek matches. Brentford, whilst they weren't at their best, had that late flurry against Crystal Palace and in the end managed to salvage a point from it. A decent point on the road away at Selhurst Park, which I think will be quite a tough place for a lot of sides to go to this season. Going up against the Leeds side, who obviously found their way back into that game against Everton, having fallen behind. The biggest miss coming out of that game, obviously the injury to Rodrigo, who had started out this season on such a hot streak. There is still plenty to like about this Leeds side, and even with Rodrigo out of the equation, I do still think there are goals to be had with this new setup under Jesse Marsch, particularly with Bamford building up his fitness now. He's back in the frame as well, but I don't see much to separate these two here. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw as my prediction. I think it'll be a very tight game. Next then we head to Stamford Bridge for Chelsea up against West Ham. Things just aren't quite right at Chelsea as things stand. I know they've got a lot of new faces to bed in. They've had a few injury concerns so far this season. You know, Reece James was missing in midweek. I think he's an absolutely vital cog to this Chelsea system. But they've looked flat in the final third other than Raheem Sterling in these recent weeks. There's not really been much in and around the front end of the pitch. I do think West Ham will cause them problems here. West Ham, who themselves got off to a bit of a stuttering start to the season. A good win at the weekend, followed up with a really good performance against Spurs and could have gone on to win that game with some of the chances they had towards the end. Chelsea looking vulnerable at the back. I'm going to go for it. 2-1 West Ham. Why not? I'm going to back David Moyes for all 3 points on the road here with his West Ham side. Next then to Newcastle up against Crystal Palace. Don't see there being all too much to separate these two sides either, and I've actually quite liked the look of both these so far. Newcastle had a really tough run of fixtures over their last couple of games, but I think they've come out of it with quite a lot of credit in the bank. Obviously that draw against Manchester City, should have got something against Liverpool in the end. Isaac on his debut for Newcastle looking absolutely brilliant as well, really bullish but powerful striker, technical as well. Looking forward to seeing more of him as this season goes on. But Crystal Palace won't be an easy customer. Good defensive setup, and Wilfried Zaha has started this season like an absolute house on fire. I think I'm sitting on the fence for this one. 1-1 draw, I'm saying, between these two. Forest against Bournemouth should be a feisty one. This was a great game in the Championship towards the end of last season, and we're getting a repeat of it here in the Premier League. Since I last did a Premier League prediction video, Scott Parker has since lost his job. Honestly, I wasn't massively surprised considering the position that Parker continued to take in post-match interviews, sort of pitting himself against the board. That was ultimately only going to end in one way, and as controversial as it may be, I do think long-term Bournemouth may actually be better off without Parker. We saw a similar sort of implosion towards the end with Parker at Fulham as well. This will be a really interesting game though. I thought that Bournemouth's point in midweek was a brilliant way to go ahead and bounce back from that dismal display against Liverpool. And away at the City ground, it'll be a tough one. Forest have looked quite good in their home matches so far. They obviously beat West Ham, got a little bit unlucky against Spurs with the chances they had. And we've already seen that atmosphere atmosphere, how everyone at the City ground fully gets behind this Forest squad. They themselves have that game against Manchester City to go ahead and put behind them. I don't think there'll be much in it, but I think maybe with that home advantage, Forest may just sneak it. 1-0 Forest I'm going for, but Bournemouth are a tough read at the moment before we know who's coming in through their door as their next manager. Fulham just keep proving me wrong at the moment. Each game week they continue to pick up points. It was a great win for them in midweek, 2-1 against Brighton. Mitrovic well within the goals this season, and I think they'll cause this Spurs side some problems, who might be up there in and amongst the top end of the Premier League at the moment, but by no means have they been at their sparkling best. Obviously we saw them get away with all 3 points at the City ground without fully getting up through the gears. The same again against West Ham in midweek. That one played out as a 1-1 draw. Once again, still feels like there should be more to come from this Spurs squad, and they certainly can't afford to take the foot off the gas against this Fulham side, who have been so unpredictable and have taken points off some really good sides so far this season. I'm just going to back the star power of Spurs, but Fulham and the Mitrovic masterclass wouldn't surprise me. 2-1 Spurs I'm saying, but I've liked the look of Fulham. Next then, to Wolves up against Southampton. I'm not going to lie, being a Preston fan, I do feel like I can relate to Wolves fans somewhat. Given how many goalless draws I've seen so far this season, I feel what you're feeling at the moment with the 0-0 draws that you've had to sit through. Another one for Wolves in midweek, more frustration for them. I do think this one poses a potential threat actually. Southampton I've actually liked the look of in recent weeks. They had their threats against Manchester United, while Man United just about walked away with all 3 points in that one. And in midweek, a brilliant showing against Chelsea and a thoroughly deserved 3 points against them. And dare I say it, I think Southampton with the extra firepower could sneak this one on the road. 2-1 Southampton is my prediction for this game. Aston Villa up against Manchester City. It does not get much easier for Steven Gerrard. When you're hanging on for dear life in your job, you do not want a game against Manchester City, who have that firepower to put 10 goals past you. The question is, will Erling Haaland start this one once again, or will Pep go ahead and start that rotation with the Champions League coming up next week? It's an interesting conundrum. Even without Haaland, Manchester City have more than enough firepower to win this game. We saw Alvarez scoring a brace in midweek, thought he looked absolutely fantastic, but back-to-back hat-tricks from Haaland. They are a scary proposition at the moment, and with how vulnerable this Villa side has looked, I'm going to go 4-0 Man City in this game, and I feel like I'm being kind to Villa there. Next then, to Brighton up against Leicester. Brighton will be looking to bounce back from that midweek defeat they had against Fulham, 2-1 in that game. At home, they've been pretty reliable this far into the season. They've kept 2 clean sheets from their 2 home matches so far, winning one and drawing the other one 0-0. I do think I'm going to edge them in this conversation. Still don't feel like I can fully bank or rely upon Leicester, but I don't think this one's going to be a landslide either. 1-0 Brighton I'm saying. I think that's one's going to be fairly tight, but Brighton to edge it. And then finishing it off with Manchester United up against Arsenal. Man United getting plenty of business done and over the line towards the end of the window to salvage together some sort of a semblance of a squad. Going up against Arsenal isn't going to be an easy one though. Arsenal currently maintaining their perfect start to this season. 2-1 win in midweek for the Gunners. Will their perfect streak come to an end at Old Trafford though? Historically, Old Trafford has been a pretty tough stadium for Arsenal to go to, but with the form they're in at the moment, they may just sneak this one. I think I'm just going to sit on the fence for it though. Man United in a game like this, whatever you've made of them so far this season, do have it in them to pop up with a moment or two, and I still think there are some vulnerabilities in that Arsenal back line. 1-1 I'm going for. I think that should be a really entertaining game. Guys, there we have it. Those are my Premier League predictions heading into the weekend's games. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on everything going on in the Premier League at this point in time in the comments down below. Do leave your predictions in there as well. Apart from that though guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for watching. If you did go on to enjoy, leave a like and stick around and subscribe for some regular footballing content, and I'll see you all in the next one.